Warning, this video may contain spoilers for late parts in the game. If you plan on playing this at some point, turn back now. You have been warned. Alright, so I'm going to take a leaf from CRISPR on the channel and do an Iceberg video. And as you can see, this one is for Kingdom Hearts, made by Rasputin Jesus. A lot of these are kind of simple if you follow news from Kingdom Hearts or just played the game, but a lot won't be known to your average player. There are some I didn't really know either, but let's get into it. I'm not sure exactly what this is referring to besides there being secret bosses in Kingdom Hearts 1. I mean, Kurt Zisa is the name of a real person who won a contest to get their name in the game, but that's it. Just powerful Heartless released after the Hollow Bastion keyhole opens. This is really obvious now and kinda was back when it was a secret boss in the final mix version, but it's Terra's literal lingering will to come back and stop Xehanort. Yup, the hooded man in the chapel of Hollow Bastion is Xemnas, Kingdom Hearts final mix version. This one might be lesser known, but the game was said to be pitched in an elevator to a Disney executive. Tetsuya Nomura said that the Square Enix game producer Shinji Hashimoto pitched the game to a Disney executive in an elevator as the Square and Disney offices were in the same building in Japan. The pitch turned into something way bigger than they could have ever imagined. He do be a secret boss in Birth by Sleep. The Disney Castle is a set piece in the first game, just being used for scenes, but in an early trailer was a playable world that got shafted. Later was in Kingdom Hearts 2, so at least it wasn't abandoned by Disney. I can't really find anything on this, but there is a thing in Kingdom Hearts 1 where Disney only let them use Mickey once, as they didn't want them to use Mickey too much to sell the game for some reason. Yeah, he was gonna be a furry before the change to the Sora we all know and love. Nomura had wanted to use the concepts in Toy Story since the first game, finally being able to add it in 3, although a lot of the Toy Story stuff that was going to be in the first game was drafted or almost implemented before it got canned. Not a lot is known about why it was taken out, but many think that the world is almost done as there are many rooms you can access through cheats, but that's about it. They are indeed in Deep Jungle. I can't really find anything for this, although as a kid, I was always confused about the cover art as he does look a little older than in the game. The summon was planned, but due to PS2 limitations, it was removed. It can be accessed through cheat codes, but the game will crash when it's chosen as a summon. Yup, the summons are toys in the Toy Story world in Kingdom Hearts 3. It's not confirmed or anything if the characters from the games are toys too, but I doubt it will ever be fully explained further than an Easter egg, though Nomura is notoriously a madman when it comes to small things becoming important plot points. I mean, you can see this very obviously with the big yellow shoes and the reds of his pajama thing equating to Mickey's shorts. This is the only one I feel is wrong, as TIDUS was in Destiny Island and the Traverse Town kid, while looking similar, their outfits are different and the kid is a little tanner than the boy in Destiny Island. Just another one of Nomura's anagrams, like for all the organization members, but at least plot-wise, so far has no significance on the actual story. There was a pilot worked on by Seth Kearsley in 2002, which he started working on a part for Agrabah and a couple other sections. He explained that the show would have been as dark as the game, but due to the fact that Square told them that they were going to make a lot more games, the show got cancelled for some reason. This kind of baffles me as why they decided not to, unless Nomura or someone didn't want it messing with stuff that he wanted to explain in later games or something, but they could have just called the show not canon and it would have been fine. I'll put a link to Seth Kearsley's DeviantArt if you want to take a closer look at this. This is a line from the same trailer that used the beta logo for the first game. Could be in reference to when Sora turns into a shadow late in the game. Unless this is talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, which it's been kinda established, and Melody of Memory, which I won't spoil. I don't know the specific Keyblades or the significance for them, but there were two unused palette-swapped Ultima weapons, the first being the Edge of Ultima, and the second being the Detection Saber in Kingdom Hearts 2. There was also a Keyblade called the Windmaker in 358 Days, when the Wing Gear was equipped, but was cut, the Wind Gear becoming the Leviathan instead. If this isn't what this one is talking about, then I have no clue. There was a different outfit going to be used for Aqua before it was finalized. I'm gonna just read out the wiki for this. Revenge value is a fan-made name usually given to a series of mechanics in place for bosses in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, whose purpose is to prevent the possibility to combo stunlock bosses to death. The combo system in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is designed such that, after every hit, all bosses with some exceptions, mainly big-sized bosses and Hooded Riku, remain staggered for a short period of time, allowing the player to keep up with the combo until the last finisher is performed. After that, a cooldown period happens for Sora, before he can start a new set of attacks. Bosses have their own AI according to which the game selects an action for them to perform when they are not staggered. This is often referred as normal revenge. An implication of the combo system is that a boss cannot execute a normal revenge when staggered, and often even the cooldown time after a combo is not enough for them to perform an action. For these reasons, the developers assigned to every action executable by Sora a hidden non-negative value on their side. The bosses have an invisible gauge with a certain capacity which may change in different phases of the battle, which is filled by the values of Sora's actions. When the gauge current value reaches or exceeds the maximum value, the boss can and will, unless some special circumstances happen, choose an action between a predefined set, usually composed by only one action, and performs it against the party, even if it's still staggered/flinching. This is commonly referred as forced revenge or a boss breaking out from a combo. No Heart is an anagram for the main bad Xehanort, with the X removed. You can fight him in the Mirage Arena in Birth by Sleep. It's believed to be Keyblade armor like that of Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, though strangely it has the nobody symbol, being the only nobody in the game possibly. A little weird if it's Xehanort to have nobody armor, though he hadn't become a nobody yet. I mean, it could just be an Easter egg, as the Mirage Arena is generally not relevant to the plot, but also doesn't make sense that much if it's canon. Xemnas does use it in Kingdom Hearts 2, but it makes sense considering he's a nobody. DM stands for Desperation Move, and it's just the crazy move where the enemy becomes invincible or something to that effect. This plays into revenge values from before, where you can skip them if you know what you're doing. Apparently in an interview for Iwata Asks for Kingdom Hearts 3D, Nomura was inspired by Mario 64, stating that he wanted to make a game similar to it, though he was denied, executives telling him that the game would be unable to compete with Mario's brand recognition. The rest is history. This is again revenge values and can skip desperation moves when used correctly, generally just not using the finisher for the move. Can kill some of the data battles pretty quickly when used, even in critical. I actually can't find anything for this, so if anyone knows, feel free to leave a comment explaining it. Again, can't find much for this one besides that I might be talking about the fact that the Japanese version actually had dialogue with voice actors, and I'm sorry if I get these wrong. Keihi Fujiwara as Axel, Tatsuya Kando as Vexen, and Reiko Katayama as Larixene. The English version had no dialogue except grunts and stuff and some clips from Kingdom Hearts 1. So, I didn't even know this one, but if this is what it is talking about, you can skip a couple places in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2 being obvious, Olympus and 100 Acre Woods. Then after that, you can choose to skip one of these 3 worlds and still be able to beat the game. Atlantica, Halloween Town, and Monstro right after you enter him. I'm going to be reading directly from an article I found on this. An exclusive first look for what appeared to be a spin-off in the Kingdom Hearts series that was to be released in 2008. It was an exclusive Wii game named Mushroom Kingdom Hearts, featuring over 41, 4 as in April, 1 as in first, Nintendo characters, and characters from the first 2 games in the series. The article was complete with artwork of a redesigned Mario holding a golden Keyblade. Sora and King Mickey are pictured with him. Accompanying this picture was an image of a mushroom with the Kingdom Hearts crown symbol on its head. EGM has confirmed in their March 26, 2007 podcast that the article was in fact the year's April Fool's joke, commenting on how the Mario design was a photoshopped image of the Super Mario Sunshine artwork. So this is a whole thing like many songs reversed, people hearing things in the lyrics, though one lyric that is said a couple times actually does need to be reversed to understand it, being "I need more affection than you know." People think it's about Riku, but I gave up actually thinking there's true validity to listening to something backwards, unless the person who wrote the song intended for it to be that way. But Utada didn't even write these songs for the game. She had already been working on them prior to Square buying them, or however that works. She didn't even know about the English lyrics to Simple and Clean till a couple years ago. She exists, I think. I mean, her voice is in Kingdom Hearts 1 calling Sora down for dinner, but not much beyond that. I mean, now that things have been explained a bit more, and as far as we know, he's not. At least in UX. He was originally planned to be a woman, but for some reason explained as balance with Larixene was changed, though she's the only girl in the org, so I don't know what balance has to do with anything. So as far as I see, this is a no, due to one fact maybe. The team who made Frozen imposed strict constraints on what they could and couldn't do for the world, not even letting you inside the top part or even really being able to understand the actual Frozen plot, with Hans only showing up at the very end and immediately becoming heartless with no lines of dialogue even. So for this to be the palace, it did need to look similar, but from what other people are saying, it really doesn't. There seems to be a lot of glitches, and I'm not going to explain all of them, so just look those bad boys up. Especially since some are from PS3 but stayed even on the PS4. Some people say that the boost to 60 frames per second messed a lot of the stuff up and is one of the main reasons for a lot of the glitches, though some have been patched over time. In an interview with, and again sorry if I mispronounced these, Yoichi Yoshimoto and Tai Yasue, they revealed that the development started around 2005 to 2006 in Osaka for the next Kingdom Hearts game, which would be Birth by Sleep, being developed for the PS2. But halfway through the first year of making the game, Nomura decided to make Chain of Memories instead, so Chain got made for PS2 and Birth by Sleep got shafted to PSP. Which is sad because Chain would have made sense on the PSP, and a couple of the ideas implemented in Birth by Sleep got killed, such as the capes for the trio's Keyblade armor, which is minor, but there's probably more ideas that got thrown out. Originally, Sora would have still been the main playable character, so the story would have been seemingly different as well. This is a big sad for the developers. In Data Greetings mode, it is possible to get out of bounds for every single map, using the platforms, being able to fly around, and generally just being able to take a deeper look around all the maps. Some places even have wall running capabilities, as well as some things being able to stand on instead of just falling through. This line is said by Riku during the first encounter in Hollow Bastion when he takes the Keyblade from Sora. I think he really didn't know what he was talking about, as per the first game they hadn't met any people with the Keyblade prior, or he could have been talking about the Kingdom Key specifically. But it seems that since Kingdom Hearts wasn't meant to be a series originally, just one game leading to the localization for the dialogue to reflect this, as the Japanese dialogue is actually Riku saying there can't be two heroes. This is a reference to a YouTuber, I think, just a pancake for an Italian Xehanort meme thing from their channel. This is the guy who wrote the original Tarzan, so I think this is just about the company taking the rights back from Disney. So if there was specific dialogue from Chain of Memories this is talking about, I couldn't find it, but from what other people are saying, since I really only played the original Chain when it came out, is that Axel was a lot more cold-blooded in that game. Being tasked with killing traitors, he does his job by the end of the game, influencing or otherwise actually killing the other members of the organization, while in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Days he seems like a completely different person, being kinder and generally not anywhere close to the calculating person he was in Chain. So yeah, sadly this was a pretty much unfinished concept, but the ship from the movie has a model in the game, also unfinished. At least we got the treasure spheres in Kingdom Hearts 3, I guess. Okay, this one's a little wild and one that I absolutely did not know. This works for all versions of Kingdom Hearts 2, I think from Final Mix further on. So essentially you can skip the entire Cavern of Remembrance section as well as all the data battles, even getting the crown piece. So I'm gonna actually let Bloody Biscuits explain. If you want to watch that video, I'm gonna link that in the description. I can't find anything on this, though in Rechain there is at least one bell that you can get some health / money / Moogle points by hitting it. This is in reference to Birth by Sleep, where at the end of the Stitch world he escapes in a spaceship to Radiant Garden, where Sora finds him without his spaceship, which is never seen again. Really not a ginormous deal or anything, and another bit I doubt will ever be explained, even if Stitch comes back at some point. As far as I can tell from what the Kingdom Hearts wiki has to say on the subject of Kingdom Hearts fragmented keys, is that this is fake. It was supposedly going to be a mobile game with a couple images, though a lot of the concept art for the game was stolen from artists, so yeah. A lot of it is also people just saying stuff, as it originated from Reddit, so there's really nothing concrete about it. Kingdom Hearts VCast was a whole different thing that was released exclusively in Japan for Verizon Wireless VCast in 2004. It took place in a dream during the first Kingdom Hearts, and the worlds it had was Swordsman Island, Wonderland, Agrabah, and Maleficent's Fortress. The game is, as of right now, lost to time technically, as there's no emulator to play it. There is a ROM though, so if anyone makes one, we can play it one day, though I don't know if anyone really wants to. This is actually from two separate instances. The beginning, Drunk Nomura, is due to the fact that he was drunk while making Recoded, at least for the initial planning and the idea of the game in the first place. The second part, Lost Source Code, is because the original code for Kingdom Hearts 1 was completely lost, so when they were remaking the game in HD, they had to take apart assets from the original game and remake the entirety in HD. These two things aren't really together though. Nomura didn't lose the source code because he was drunk. Seems that originally Nomura hadn't thought of the whole Ventus connection when he was making the character of Roxas, and was just straight up going to make him Sora's nobody. He decided to make it a lot more confusing than he had to be. As far as Monsters Inc. goes, there is a debug room for it in the code, so Monsters was planned but scrapped at some point. There's also a world named .fa that wasn't implemented either but has no debug room. The title abbreviation can also be found in Dream Drop Distance for the world Fantasia, which means originally Fantasia was planned but again scrapped from the game. I have no clue for this. I think it's mainly up to whatever the writer wants, as it's a little inconsistent from world to world, and even game to game. This is because in one of the video game themed levels for the Simpsons game, a statue that also looks like Amaterasu from Okami is holding a keyblade in its mouth. Later in the same level, there is a comic book guy enemy that says, "Every light must fade, every heart return to darkness," using a quote from Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness. This is just literal that Rabbit in the 100 Acre Woods has a letter from Mickey Mouse in his mail. Not sure if this is a meme, but there are skulls from The World Ends With You and Dream Eater emblems, as well as a Square Enix logo. Nomura actually stated in an interview that they were going to make a fighting game out of Kingdom Hearts, but Disney said no, our characters will not be battling, as well as the Square Enix staff, so the game is shifted to Final Fantasy characters. This concept was totally changed and morphed into what became 358 Days, as they had still wanted to make a fighting game, decided to use the organization members, but as they came up with ideas and where the game would be placed into the timeline, it changed into 358 Days. I have no clue what the BIOS is that it's talking about, but I have some pics from the beta for Recom where it seems they tried to keep the Game Boy aesthetic, though it looks rather stinky, so I'm glad they decided to upgrade the graphics further and change some of the ideas. This refers to the clock tower doors in Kingdom Hearts 1, which you can open when the little top part sparkles. You need to come back every real-time hour, but like with Animal Crossing, you can mess with the internal clock, at least on the PS2 version. Not sure about the remakes. This also depends on how many hours you put into the game at that point. If you don't want to cheese with the corresponding door depending on the hours, exceeding 12, leading it to start over at door 1. This might be a bit of an overstatement, as I'll admit the main character is extremely similar to Sora, even being named Sion, as well as the use of dog street clothing for Pence being a direct reference to the bouncer. As I haven't played the game, I don't know much beyond that. It is said that the Trinity concept used in the first Kingdom Hearts and 3 characters fighting together came from this game. Funnily enough, it was the first game Square made for the PS2, as well as the first game to use 5.1 Dolby sound on the PS2. Like most prototype Disney mascots, this one is kinda horrifying. Not super terrifying, but still like really close to the Uncanny Valley feeling. Phoenix Games is a well-known company in Europe for bad business practices. One of them being that for the PS2 cover of their Peter Pan game having used a picture of Destiny Islands on it, meaning they must have not really looked into the series at all to know just how big it is. There's a random text box that appears when you load a map through the credits when hacking. The box says, question mark, question mark, question mark, "You are not the true Keyblade bearer." Probably just an inside joke or something about being a pirate, you know. No idea what this means at all. Might be another meme or something. There's files in the Dream Drop Distance with a line of text that reads, "So, the theory of Madoka Magica being a loop is right. I'm surprised about Kyuubi's brutality." This was probably used as a placeholder for something else and left in the game, or just like a test file or something. I'm not 100% sure on this one, and all I can find is a panel for the Chain of Memories manga that has Marluxia and Larixene eating some fried chicken. I 100% believe this to be true. It basically has to go all the way back to Final Fantasy XIII Versus, and how Square has generally treated Nomura in the production of that game. They took him off the project and pretty much completely scrapped all the concepts of that game when it changed to Final Fantasy XV, as Square wanted him to completely focus on Kingdom Hearts 3 because they were frustrated with the time it was taking to make that game. Then, out of nowhere, they announced that Nomura would be the director of the Final Fantasy VII remake, without even telling him beforehand. So I think Yozora is his way of finally telling the story of Final Fantasy XIII Versus. It is believed, I'm not sure if it was confirmed, but at least for the main titles, every cover art is actually a reference to the next mainline title, with Kingdom Hearts 1's kind of looking like the world that never was. Then for 2, Final Mix, the pillars kind of representing the 7 lights to the 13 darknesses. For Kingdom Hearts 3, it's looking like it's in reference to the next game, which is going to be located in Quadratum. This is a reference to a term used in the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Some think it was a mistranslation of Seekers, and some think it refers to the main characters of Birth by Sleep, as throughout the story, each of the trio is chasing after the other one. Alternatively, it could also be something that Nomura planned but eventually dropped, as the secret endings for the first 2 games aren't canon, as the stuff that happens in them changes a bit in the actual games. This is a file name for Dream Drop Distance, where apparently there are 3 files, being dive mode maps inspired by the Jungle Book, which they have tried to put into multiple different games in the series, even in the cancelled Kingdom Hearts animated show. BHK. What does it stand for? Well, apparently back when Kingdom Hearts originally came out, the secret ending featured a certain BHK, a blonde-haired kid who we now know as ROXAS. I think this is just a reference to a forum thread from 2009 on Kingdom Hearts Insider where people talked about how much they liked Aerosmith. Actually, digging a little deeper, I found out that there was code in Dream Drop Distance with the name of songs from Aerosmith, so the thread is just a wild coincidence. There is Chain of Memories assets in the files of Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't know why, and can't really find any info on it past that fact, but yeah. So, in the manga for Chain of Memories, at some point Larxene is reading a book from Marquis de Sade, in which she is talking to Axel about Sora, saying that she would have kicked him around more. Marquis de Sade was a French philosopher and writer who usually wrote about violent sexual fantasies, with the word sadism originating from his name. Mostly just an Easter egg, but weird to include for mostly kids being fans of the series back then. I think this is wrong, because as per the wiki, it is framed as a place within a dream, and its nature as the dreamer's heart is reinforced by the background music, the gameplay tutorial, and the strange way of speaking used by those within it. However, the events which occur within it have a real effect on the waking world, and in 2 instances they are actually observed by outside forces. I mean, we could find out that it's bigger than that, cause it's like a midway between the final world. This is the exact same as with the GBA Chain of Memories stuff in Kingdom Hearts 2. Don't know why they had them in there, just leftover stuff or things they were messing around with and left in accidentally, or maybe for people to find as something cool. Dream Drop Distance had a lot of unused stuff, even in the code. There was even references to the singer with a couple song names. This is the same thing with the Joe Williams and Aerosmith. This is kind of simple and pretty much explained immediately. Beast literally used his heart to follow Bells when she got taken by Maleficent. His heart straight up traveled through the ocean between, as it was so strong that it didn't go to Traverse Town when his castle was taken over by darkness. So, yeah, power of belief. Depending on which game this is talking about, and if it's talking about the mysterious voice in Dive to the Heart, at least for Sora, it's Mickey talking to him. In Birth by Sleep, the mysterious voice talking to Ventus is Baby Sora. Yeah, Sora mentions his dad once throughout the entire series in Birth by Sleep when he mentions to Riku that his dad is there to bring him home. I think Riku mentions him in Chain or something, but I don't know why he doesn't talk about his own parents. This is just another anagram and another meme from Just a Pancake. I'm gonna assume that this is talking about how the worlds are separated from each other, and is explained in Kingdom Hearts 1 that you shouldn't even be able to travel between them. The area that the Gummy Ship travel is not space, it is an area called the Ocean Between, which is just the space between worlds so they don't interfere or even see each other. There's also a barrier for each world that separates them, but usually due to Heartless, Nobody, or inverse interference, the barriers break down, allowing for travel between them. There's multiple other ways to enter a world, though, such as the lanes between and the corridors of darkness. While I'd love for this to be true, it's not. Though there was a lot planned out beforehand, there are many instances of changes and retcons throughout the series, with games being cancelled and compromises made due to Disney interference or otherwise changes during development. I mean, like from before the idea for Recoded was made while Nomura was straight up drunk, so there was definitely changes and stuff you could see throughout this list. Like I said, I'd love Nomura to be this giant mad genius who knew everything, but it's very clear that this is not the truth. Get it, Mom? I think this might be talking about the organization members, maybe, because there's really no way to know the actual identity of every Heartless and Nobody. So I'll explain from Xemnas, who is actually Terranort, who is Terra taken over by Xehanort. His Heartless is Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. Xigbar is actually Braig, who is taken over by Lushu. Nomura stated that none of the organization members besides Terranort had enough darkness to produce more than a shadow, so none of the other organization members even have a Heartless. Zoldan is Dylan, Vexen is Evan, Lexius is Alias, Zexion is Yenzo, Syax is Issa, Axel is Lee, Demix is unknown, Luxord is also unknown, Marluxia is Lorium, then finally Larixene is Elrena, Roxas and Xion being Sora and Sora's memories of Kairi. I'm assuming this is about Sora and the gang transforming or otherwise getting different outfits depending on the world they're in, but also a question as to why when Donald isn't around, who uses magic to change their outfits in Kingdom Hearts 1 through 3, but Riku and Sora's outfits change in Dream Drop Distance as well, which could possibly be attributed to the fact that Dream Drop Distance is essentially in a dream. I can't find anything even relating to this one, so I'm not sure where this idea came from if it's not a meme. Sorry to end on kind of a weird note. Whew. So that's all 86 Iceberg theories from Rasputin Jesus. Sorry that I couldn't find some of them. Hopefully if anyone knows, they can put it in the comments and we'll all find out. Well, hope you enjoyed this long video and see you next time.